We're going to begin the ad hoc Affordable Housing Committee meeting now. Yeah, I know. All right, we're going to start with Resolution RS 2018-1139. Sponsors Davis, Vercher, Mendez, authorized Metro Development and Housing Agency to negotiate and enter into a pilot agreement and accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to a multifamily housing project located at 2034 Pitway Drive, known as Oakwood Flats. Is there a motion? Second? Any discussion? Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we remember a year and a half ago, we did a rezoning. Some of our friends on the commission, on the planning staff, agreed to disagree with us. It was a disapproved bill. I think everyone in here just about voted for this. And I want to thank the chair, Councilor Gilmore, Councilman Anthony Davis, and Councilman Hastings, and I believe Berkeley Allen and Kobe Sledge and Jeff Syracuse and Steve Glover also voted with us on this bill. Mainly what we did here was we took a over 20-acre industrial site and we're building real affordable housing. This plan was approved for 250 units. There'll be 30 to 50 market rate single family homes. However, though, we're going to have over 200 apartment units. One bedroom starting out in the 700s, two bedroom, two baths, 800s, three bedroom, three baths, 900s. That is 1990s rental rates in the city. And also, the developer is going to be helping me pre-lease in December so that people who have been displaced can have places to live. Now, this is not the first affordable housing project that I've done in my district, but this is the biggest one. It's on a transit corridor. Pitway is right off of Trinity Lane. Also, and I'm saying this for this particular area of my district, we are welcoming 75 Section 8 vouchers. This is going to be a mixed development. So when I tell you the 5th district is open for business, it's open to everybody. And I'm welcoming, and I want to accept more similar plans of great mixed-use projects like this with mixed income housing, along with some Section 8 vouchers in there with the mixed vouchers. So I want to please approve this plan. I want to thank MDHA for their hard work. I want to thank the mayor's office too for their assistance and the council office. I'd like to move for approval, sir.
All right, thank you, Councilman Davis. And let's go to the other Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to commend everyone that worked on this. Obviously, 280 units at 60% AMI cannot be understated. That's huge. I know Scott worked hard on this for a long time. And then, am I reading this right? We've got the $2.5 million per year on these pilots, and this is about 400,000.
Right.
Chipping away at that. So, yeah, this is just a great project all around, and want to continue to support these pilots we're doing through MDHA. This is right down the street from my office there on Trinity Lane, so I'm very excited about this. And just a great place for some 60% AMI in a part of East Nashville that is becoming less and less affordable by the day, as all of East Nashville is. To put this there long term is really solid. So thank you for everyone that worked on it.
Thank you. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Chairman Mendez. I just wanted to congratulate Scott. That is really a big deal. So I did want to talk a little bit about the vouchers. I guess the vouchers would cover it all, and if MDHA could just speak to that, because we know that the prices are escalating, and so what happens with the vouchers, and if it's some money left over, how does that work? We know a lot of people that did have vouchers are going to Clarksville, Tennessee. So if they could just speak about the vouchers, and then a little bit more about, I guess it's more back end, but I wanted to hear more about how we were able to convince the developers that this was good for them, because you hear a lot say that it really doesn't benefit them, and just the structure of that plan, if we could talk about that.
Well, I think representatives of the developer are here, and so maybe they can jump in after MDHA. Oh, hold on. Try now.
Thank you, Council Lady. I'm Joe Kane with MDHA. Thank you very much. We have approved both. This is for the MDHA board has both approved the pilot as you have here presented in front of this bill, as well as some project-based vouchers to assist with the rents that the tenants will be paying on that. And I would like to introduce John Shepard, who can explain a lot more about the project and any questions that you have with that, because he will be constructing and operating the project in full. And so if there's no other question, I'd like him to.
Actually, I did. I had a follow-up.
Okay, sure.
I'm trying to see, are the vouchers, do they go directly to the project, or do they go to, or I should say, I don't know if I'm using the word correctly, project or development, or do they go to the individual, and then the individual, therefore, in turn?
They're at the project. So if
Okay.
one tenant, if that tenant moves out, then it's available for another tenant to be able to come in. So it assists with the rents only at that development. It's not one that you can move and take with you.
Got you. And then is it for how much are the vouchers for? How much are they worth?
They are, it adjusts with all of the rent. So it's going to be dependent upon the 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3 bedrooms as it goes in. And it's going to be based on the differences that the tenant can afford to actually pay and what the fair market rent is.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Kane, before you step
Yes.
away, maybe you could explain how the pilot that we're approving and the project-based vouchers, when layered together, help the overall affordability? Because they really are separate components, right?
They are. The vouchers actually have a higher rent threshold than what the typical LIHTC is. The low-income housing tax credit project will keep rents for below at the 60% level that they can afford on that, and the project-based vouchers allow the rents to slide up. That is taken into consideration when we do our analysis on what rent levels they will be able to receive on the individual units as they come through. But it does allow, and it allows the lower income individuals, which is the most important. It allows them to be paying only 30% of their rent, whereas the other folks are going to have a fixed rent that they're going to have to pay.
Thank you.
I'm John Shepard. I'm a developer with Elmington Capital Group. We are the developers for Oakwood Flats. Address is 118 16th Avenue South. So this Oakwood Flats is the third pilot application affordable housing development that we've done in Nashville. This one is a little bit different than the previous two in that this is a HUD finance development, whereas our previous two were either with a private bank loan or with a Freddie Mac loan. So the HUD financing comes with a little more red tape, but allows you to do a few things that you can't with a bank loan. And part of what we're doing here is targeting more of a mix of incomes, as Councilman Davis mentioned. So this development will have everything from tenants below 50% of area median income, all the way up to actually some for sale market rate product as well, which is not subject to the pilot, but and then 60% AMI tenants as well. So trying to do here something different in that we are targeting a broad mix of incomes, creating a mix of uses and product types within a neighborhood. So you're right, the pilot and the rental assistance provided by MDHA, we don't provide any rental assistance, but the rental assistance provided by MDHA are two separate elements of this development.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. So for the ones that have the vouchers associated with them, is there a number of years on the overall development, or do they ever convert out?
So the commitment from MDHA is for a minimum of 15 years.
Okay.
To us. The tenants, will move in and move out over that period of time. But what it allows us to do is, we, part of being an affordable developer is you have tenants with rental assistance vouchers who actually you're prohibited by state law from discriminating against those tenants. And we certainly wouldn't have any intention of doing that. What this allows us to do is to just work with MDHA on the front end, understand, what kind of numbers of tenants with rental assistance support we'll have, understand the payment standards that will come along with those rental assistance payments. So then we can model that on the front end and understand, how that feeds into the rest of the development.
Also, you had mentioned that you have 2 other developments like this in the city. Do you have information? Have you gathered data on those to see I guess, how it informs our policy as we move forward? Do you have information that you can share about those, and just in terms of the tenants they're staying, and just kind of those measurements, how long they stay, do they?
We do. I don't have any of that information at my fingertips, but we track that. We look at how long our tenants stay in our development. It's about half the industry average, but we gather that information because obviously we're responsible for ensuring that our tenants remain affordable, or our units remain affordable to tenants, who meet those income criteria. So we do track all that information. We report it to Tennessee Housing Development Agency, and I think they are the best sort of repository of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good deal. And then I just wanted to ask you one more. I think you had mentioned the red tape piece. Could you just speak a little bit to that? Like, what are some of the things that, even though you have a lot of flexibility with having a HUD loan versus a private loan, what are some of the things that just kind of maybe slow down the progress or make it really tedious?
Sure. So anytime, as you know, anytime you're dealing with federal dollars, it triggers a variety of federal statutes that MDHA is responsible for administering. And those are an array of things related to labor and wage standards, environmental standards. We have to do archaeological assessments. There's a lot of, important public benefits that are being protected. It does increase the amount of time that it takes to bring a project like this to fruition. So we've been working on this for probably 1.5 years at this point. So it slows things down, but that's just part of the give and take.
All right, thank you. Council Lady Allen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This may be for MDHA, I'm not sure. My understanding of project-based rental assistance is that that's HUD money that'll stay forever if you don't lose it, but there's not any new HUD money. Is this project new construction, or are y'all inheriting these vouchers from another project? Or I know we have $25 million that's supposed to help preserve that in particular, and I'm hoping maybe this is new. That'd be the best. But if you can just kind of tell me where it's coming from, that'd be great.
I'm David Dellinger, COO of MDHA. So this is project-based vouchers. So this comes out of our Housing Choice Voucher account, which is around 7,000. So it's not the PBRA piece. And so, but the project-based vouchers stay with that project, stay in that construction.
And it's still HUD money that's still
Yes.
adjustable?
Yes.
And is that something that is obviously it's new funding that they're continuing to do, and we expect to be there for the next at least 15 years?
Yes. I mean, it's subject to the annual funding of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And so if we can continue to get the same amount of money, we're going to continue to get about 7,000 vouchers. That's broke up between the Housing Choice vouchers that can transition and move to different properties, and then the project-based vouchers that stay with a property.
Gotcha.
So it's still an aggregate of around 7,000, depending on what the market rate is driving for those vouchers, and then just on how our renters are able to make their payments.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Councilman Glover's next. Oh, hold on. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Jameson, I'm not sure I'm not sure who I asked this question of. So we've been putting in $10 million a year into the Barnes Fund. This is a pilot. This is HUD. I'm trying to understand all the varying pieces of how this works. And I guess maybe to make the question simple, if we don't continue funding the Barnes Fund, does it affect this project, or does it have no effect whatsoever with this project?
This particular project, we are spending about $400,000 annually for the LIHTC. This is a LIHTC property, and there's a
Okay, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So for this particular project, it's a LIHTC property, low-income housing tax credit, on which we're applying the pilot. There is a cap on that annually of $2.5 million. This will simply apply about $400,000, give or take, close to $396,000 and change. And that just goes to that 2.5. So we're clearly within the limit there. The Barnes Fund provision is separate and apart. We've pledged the 2.5 separately.
Okay, so if we're unable to give money this coming year for the Barnes Fund, it will not affect this project or any other projects that we've already put into place?
Should not, no.
Should not or will not?
Will not. It's
Okay.
a separate independent pledge that we've made to the 2.5 million.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Councilman Sledge is next.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to echo all the sentiment, the positive sentiment from the committee toward this project. I've got one that will be PBRA that's coming soon with a pilot that has 600 units of low-income housing over at Tribeca Towers, which you may have seen this week. I guess the question I had is building off of what one of the gentlemen said about LIHTC is typically 15 years, but the pilots we always do are 10 years. Is there somebody who can explain why there's that discrepancy?
Looks like Mr. Kane's going to take that one.
Thank you. Yes, I would. The reason behind that is the tax credits themselves that are issued ultimately by the federal government. The tax assessor assesses the value of that over a 10-year period. And after the 10-year period, there is no more, the tax assessor considers that income going to the property, the value of those credits. They consider it income to the property. So when they do an analysis of the value of the property, they're counting over and above the actual income that's coming in from the tenants. They are considering those credits as additional income to the property. And the purpose of the pilot is to neutralize that additional income. After 10 years, the assessor would look at the property as a deed restricted property, which it is. It'd be deed restricted and forced rents, and the only income that would be credited to that under the valuation techniques that the tax assessor uses would be the income. And so after 10 years, the tax assessor, they would be able to appeal their taxes on their own and come back and say, hey, the value of the property is only this based on my income.
Just a follow-up question to that then, is there a reason, I guess, then that wouldn't be that it's 10 instead of 15?
But it's because of the amount, the period of which the tax assessor values those. And so we're only concerned about limiting it that way because their true income is only what is generated by the rents.
Okay, all right, that's helpful, thank you.
All right. Councilor Vercher, I saw your light sort of on and off.
Yes, my question, thank you, Chair. I have a question as it relates to the funding levels in the event it's not continued to be funded at the level that it is being funded. Do we have a contingency or provision as it relates to those that would be on the actual vouchers, or do we not need one? Or do we already have a safeguard in there? Will we end up with less units being Section 8 in the event that the funding level isn't the same? I believe I heard it was alluded to that funding was, of the program was contingent upon that.
So the rental assistance payments are contingent upon, well, we have to receive them from MDHA, and MDHA receives them from, I guess, ultimately HUD. But our our units, our income restrictions they stay in place no matter what.
All right. Before you go, let me ask you a question too. I think it would be helpful for viewers at home to understand how the income screening process works. So if you could describe that for a second, it would be helpful.
Sure. So this is a big part of what we do. We have probably 6 full-time employees who only do this. So we review a tenant's, an applicant's income when they apply for a unit. And there's a series of attestations they have to make. We look at tax returns, pay stubs. It's a pretty in-depth process we go through to really get a full sense of an applicant's income. And then we continue to evaluate that on an ongoing basis. That said, if you get a promotion at work, and because that's what the types of unit or residents that these units provide housing for is workforce housing. You get a promotion at work that puts you over that line, you don't have to move out. The point of that is that we don't want to disincentivize people from taking on that next role or getting that promotion at work. So, but we do continue to look at people's incomes and evaluate them and make sure that they're otherwise complying with the limits. But it's our tenants, like I said, certify that to us. We in turn certify that to the state, and ultimately we're on the hook all the way to the Treasury Department if those limitations aren't being enforced.
Let me ask you one quick follow-up. And so, is it part of your practice and what you guys do to help people who maybe haven't been through filling out that paperwork before get through the process?
Yes, sir. So our leasing consultants are really experienced in this, and we make sure that we're providing the information that people need to navigate that.
Okay, and then Councilman Glover.
And Chair, thank you for asking the question the way you did. I would like to, kind of expand the question to a degree with regards to the HUD requirements as far as what they have to provide for renting the apartment versus the other programs that we've done in Metro that are not HUD underwritten. And so can I get just kind of a variance on what the difference is as far as the criteria, as far as the rental criteria for HUD versus non-HUD? Am I asking the question well? I may not be.
And I might rephrase it a little bit for Mr.
Okay.
Payne. And I wish Ms. Harris were here because I think she'd be able to give us a good answer. I think maybe Joe Kane is the right person. And the way I'm interpreting the question, tell me if I'm wrong, is so we've got Barnes Fund, we've got these pilots, some have got federal overlays, some don't. What's the difference in the affordability requirement and the screening in particular?
Right.
And I'm guessing the answer is going to center around the idea that it's hard to build any affordable housing without layers of help, and it's probably all the affordable housing that gets built has got some federal layer in it somewhere. So it's probably about the same, but maybe somebody from MDHA can help us with that.
Yep. Thank you, Chair.
Hi, I'm Angie Hubbard, Director of Community Development. I oversee all the block grant funds that have the home and CDBG, and so we're well versed in the income requirements. HUD on they actually allow 3 different ways. Our typical one that we adopt for our jurisdiction is Section 8 because we have the housing choice vouchers. It is your income. We use, and one of the biggest distinctions that we have is we use area median income. That's our determination, not Davidson County median family income, because that is what HUD requires of us. Whenever we put home money in a Barnes project, we have to make sure they meet the HUD definition. Wherever HUD comes in, no matter what the other funding sources are, you have to meet those HUD definitions. HUD actually contemplates a lot that low-income housing tax credits are going to be used, and they defer a lot. They work well together. So at the local level, I can't speak to what Barnes does, but again, whenever you put the federal piece in it, it becomes the federal requirement. Did that answer your question? I can't speak to like every piece of documentation, their assets, their income for the households, all of that they have to provide. They have to meet, back to what John Shepard said, they have to meet the income at initial occupancy. All the HUD requirements as well as tax credits is at initial occupancy. You do recertify, but if they happen to be over income for whatever reason, they can still retain their housing. Just the next unit must make sure that it is occupied by an income eligible tenant.
Okay, so I'm going to try and expand it a little bit better, perhaps, with regards to the background. Is it strictly on the income, or are there other criteria that are involved outside of the HUD versus the HUD?
Absolutely. So, you know, how MDHA provides or underwrites federal assistance for tenants that receive that assistance is not something that we do or have a part of. So we're private developers, private owners. We collect the rent, basically. Our tenant underwriting process is part of it is income based. All of our tenants have to be at or below 60% of area median income. As I mentioned before, this development is different in that we have another set aside for 50% area median income tenants, but we're responsible for evaluating that. And then the other part of our process is the same process we implement on all of the apartments that we own and manage. So that's credit check, criminal background check. We collect references with prior landlords. So that stuff is all, and that's not a part of the housing tax credit process either. That's just something that we do as private property owners. Does that answer your question?
I think so. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption. Is that why your group is being successful in the way that you're approaching this and the way that you are doing it, is because you're actually trying to make sure that the amount of money being invested by all parties is being spent in a responsible manner?
I think that's true. I think that part of why we've been successful is that there is such a huge need for what we and other developers of housing are doing that we have, so we're building 280 units. We'll probably have a waiting list of 1,000 people. So we're able to be extremely selective and enforce very high criteria about the types of residents that we accept in our development. So we have very difficult criminal background checks that I mentioned and that kind of thing. And that's, frankly, that's because of the shortage of this kind of housing that exists.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
All right, Councilman Hastings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think this process and this private entity, along with MDHA, gives us a great example of what we could and should be doing, even with our Barnes Fund sector, by teaming up with the private industry, as well as our nonprofit side, to be able to help us to build greater number of units for the people that are in need here in the city. So I just wanted to commend you, Councilman Davis, and all of you guys in MDHA and the private industry for giving us such an example of what this type of entity could happen and could do for us in our city, especially when we're talking about such large numbers of 400 and 600 units for families that are in need here in this city. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that. And Mr. Chair, if we could take in record that we need to be looking at more of this as we go along to do something about this, because we still have families that have been displaced because the owner of the residence that they once lived in decided to sell the property, and they're living inside of their cars with their kids who are going to our metro schools. So we have to do something about that.
Thank you, and I think we'll have an opportunity in Councilman Sledge's district here in a few weeks. And Councilman Davis, you get the last word.
Last word until tomorrow night. YIMBY.
YIMBY, great. So if there's no more discussion, we've got a motion that's been properly seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes 8-0. Next, we've got Resolution 2018-1140, sponsors Vercher, Mendez, and others, approves a sub-recipient grant agreement between MDHA and the Metro Department of Social Services and the Metro Homelessness Commission to provide services for homelessness persons, including funding for emergency payments for persons housed through the 100,000 Homes campaign and needs assessment and planning efforts. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing Councilor Edie Gilmore.
Thank you. I just wanted a little bit more information. I think we discussed it briefly in budget, but if someone could come forward and.
Hello again. So for the past several years, we've allocated a portion of our community development block grant funds for this activity. This year, it's $70,000 for the emergency payments. And what that is if someone's coming through House Nashville, they are allowed up to $1,000 one time for rent deposits, utility deposits, and first month's rent. And that, again, is only one time throughout their entire program year. Or then the other $15,000 is we're doing our new 5-year consolidated plan that requires a needs assessment and market analysis on homelessness. So we partnered with the Metro Homelessness Commission, the planning and coordination body, to lead those efforts. So they've led about 5 or 6 different consultations and community meetings. So the $15,000 supports staff costs. And this has been a great, the emergency assistance has been really great at helping people overcome the initial barriers to housing.
So what part of the community, which acronym is this, that this money comes out?
CDBG, Community Development Block Grant.
Okay, and which one under that? Because it's like HOPA or something like.
So HOP was a separate program. Okay. So we have 4 of our consolidated plan programs: Community Development Block Grant, the HOME program, which is not an acronym, it's just spelled with capital letters. Emergency Solutions Grant, which is for homelessness, but this is outside of that because those homeless dollars are immediately scooped up by nonprofits for rapid rehousing. This is a gap that we didn't have enough of our ESG funds, and we heard so much about the need to overcome these barriers that we programmed some CDBG dollars to assist.
Okay, so this is actually taken from the community development block. So and I'm gonna come back to, I'm gonna stay on task, but I wanna leave for a second and just parking in the parking lot. So do neighborhoods still get to use the CDBG grants to kind of do signage and things, or that's just been taken away?
So 5 years ago, 2013, when we implemented the new, over the course of the past 10 years, our federal money has severely been cut at the federal level. So when we implemented our current consolidated plan in 2013, we started focusing the neighborhood programs very narrowly to assist neighborhoods with higher concentrations of poverty and doing more impactful things like parks and storm drainage and sidewalks. We did get away from signage and beautification projects because we just didn't have enough funding to support those.
Okay, and then so the second follow-up question actually goes back to the first one. So this is under the which
CDBG.
Yeah, and then is it the emergency or it's not the emergency?
It's not the Emergency Solutions Grant. It's completely separate pot of money.
Okay, and so you said the person gets $1,000 throughout their, just one?
Yeah, so it's allocated for a person. Let me clarify that funding is not given to the person. It's actually paid directly to the landlord or to the utility provider.
Okay, so how many people are able to use that for, because the total is $1,000, right?
Right.
And that's talking about utilities and rent.
It's
right?
just one time, the deposits, not every month.
Okay, I'm with you. So yeah, I guess that's my question. Where are these people living on a $1,000 and it's all it's rent, it's the housing?
Again, it's not their monthly payment. It's for them to get into housing, they must pay a utility deposit, a rental deposit, and a first month rent. This helps them overcome those initial barriers. And then they may have a housing choice voucher, they may have a VASH voucher, they may get a job, they may have other types of assistance. This is not their monthly housing payment.
Okay, so it's like assistance, like rental assistance for homeless people?
This is not rental assistance. Again, this is just their first deposit to get them into that housing.
I got you. I guess it's still, I understand what you're saying, but I guess the question is still, I would like to know if there's some data, where are they going still with on the 1,000?
And I'll ask Ms. Tackett, because she actually works with the housing navigators that place them into housing.
Mm-hmm.
Judith Tackett with the Metropolitan Homelessness Commission. So we have a whole program around that where the Homelessness Commission trains housing navigators, which are service providers at other community agencies, on how to work with people to get some of those funds. And they're also the ones that help locate housing with them. So it's Urban Housing Solution is one of the where people go. It's we have a partnership with Freeman Webb for some units that they are making available for this at reduced rent cost. There are some other landlords that we're working with. There are landlords that accept Section 8 vouchers. We have another partnership with MDHA for if funding is available for up to 18 Section 8 vouchers per month that also housing navigators can apply for on behalf of the clients to go hand in hand with this. So this fund is really about the last barrier to housing. If there is no other way for them to remove those to pay for these deposits and first month rent.
So do we have numbers of how many people that are being placed using this?
We have those. I don't have them with me. What we have looked at is over the last year, community-wide, we looked at the housing placement, monthly housing placement rent of literal homelessness, and I'm not saying all of what I'm spouting out, the number, all of them are receiving moving costs from us because they're also looking at other resources first. This is kind of the last resort. So in 2017, about 117 households have moved into housing per month in our community that have experienced literal homelessness. That number is what it says. It's a monthly number. It's an unduplicated monthly number. So we looked a little bit, and we need to dig a little bit deeper, and we need to actually have the capacity to dig a little deeper, which is getting more data and getting better data collection and investing in that. But not many. The retention rate seems to be pretty high. We take some snapshots and have taken those throughout the years, and it's around 80-85%. But that's the numbers we have right now. I think I've been very outspoken in the public that we are limited in the data collection that where we are right now, and we need to invest more so we can have that more ready.
Okay. And I think I just have one more question, and then I will be finished. So I'm hearing what you're saying about the data. Are those one-time payment assistance, are they just for Nashville exclusively, or are we looking at them kind of like surrounding areas?
Everywhere.
So it's not just Nashville?
Yes.
Okay, so they could go.
But this one, the CDBG fund, is just Nashville. Sorry,
Gotcha.
I need to correct that.
Okay.
We have some other, yes.
Okay.
The 117 could be outside of housing, but the moving costs is just Nashville.
But so for that CBDG, CDBG or CGBG or Community Block Development Grant. That's how I know how to say it. I'll say it that way versus initial. So that 117, is that the 117 for your number, or is that taking in all others with the
All others.
Okay, so
That's
that's
a
not
community number.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right then. Thank you so much.
Seeing no more discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes. Thank you. And next, we've got on second reading, BL 2018-1139, sponsor Syracuse, Vercher, and Bedney, approves a Donaldson Transit-Oriented Redevelopment Plan. And I'll just mention that Budget and Finance adopted substitute A, deferred second reading till May 15 with a re-referral to Budget and Finance. Is there a motion? I'm going to let Councilman Syracuse just talk about this briefly. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've worked very hard on this. Thank you very much to Councilman Mendez and Mr. Jameson for all their work on helping with this. We've worked very well in concert with planning, with MDHA, with legal. And this substitute really reflects a more flushed out, good working relationship between MDHA. It helps us ensure that our goals are being met from a broad perspective in terms of affordable housing. It ensures we focus first affordable housing on the affordable aspect, up to 60% AMI, where the highest need is. It ensures that projects within the residential component apply for TIF will be required to allocate the 10% of residential units to be affordable. And it looks at every 5 years to do a periodic reassessment of the plan to ensure that we're meeting our overall goals. And then, as you know, as far as the other elements of TIF, they are for infrastructure and economic development, two things in the heart of Donaldson that are greatly needed. It does have elements of encouraging lead design, and there is going to be an MOU between planning and MDHA to look at the design review process to see if we can't make it a little more streamlined and perhaps even more transparent. So I'm very proud of this, and I think it's going to be a great template for others to follow. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Jameson, so can we do that in all one motion? Adopt the substitute, defer second reading to 515 with re-referral to this committee?
I'd feel better if you adopted the substitute in a separate motion and then.
All right. So if somebody like to move to adopt substitute A? Any discussion? All right. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. And then the suggested next motion is to defer as adopted for second reading on May 15 with re-referral to this committee? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Hey, thanks all of you and for our guests today for the robust discussion about these bills. I think that's really helpful. Thanks a lot. And with that, we're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.